Good evening, everyone. This is Steve Powell, and tonight we're going to have the fifth and final segment of my interviews with the four composers who appear not just with their compositions, but as performers on the piano on my Grammy-nominated solo debut CD, American Composers at Play. Tonight, we have the only two pieces that are not written for piano and voice. All right, John, let's talk about this fantastic cycle for classical guitar and baritone, The Brief Light. Now, I did not know this piece, but the chance to sing with classical guitar, I mean, how often does that happen? It really doesn't. There's not that much music written for it. So the only other recording I think that's ever been done was with David Starobin on guitar and Patrick Mason, baritone.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to find Jason Vieaux, the guitarist. We hit it off right away. One of the things he said to me when we got together to rehearse, he said, this composer, he has to play the guitar because he wrote it exactly the way a guitarist would want to play it.
Well, the genesis of the cycle was that Dave had been asking me for something, I think for years. I remember seeing him outside some concert we were both at years ago. He said, I'd really like to get something from you. He runs Bridge Records. They were doing a record and he said, really, do you have anything? So I said, I had been very reticent to write for the guitar because I felt like I knew, I don't actually play that kind of guitar. I came up playing folk music and rock and roll and bluegrass. I mean, that's my bluegrass axe back there.
Looks beautiful.
Very sweet axe is a Martin D45. So I had this feeling that I would somehow just write something that I can actually play. I would be forced to think about what I could play. And I finally got over that. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to write this piece. I did, I have a classical guitar also, and I did finger everything so that I knew it was playable. I assure you, I can't play it.
And I think Dave Starobin, I think he teaches at Curtis, is that right?
And Manhattan School.
And Manhattan. So Jason was also coming to teach at Curtis. I think he teaches in Cleveland, but also at Curtis a couple times a year. And just as I had introduced myself and asked him about playing this piece, David had asked him to learn it to teach the kids at Curtis. A little convergence of coincidence. The timing was amazing. And he said, so I was learning this anyway, and then you called me. So this is great.
Well, I ran things by Dave also. I would send him, something over a PDF or something. He said, is this okay? Can this, the thing is when you write anything really, even vocal music, whatever you want to write, it's one thing, I know what could be done at the piano, but even with vocal music, I ask Amy all the time, you don't want to just know if something is possible. You want to know if it's practical and if it's awkward. And if it's, if someone's going to look at this piece and say, oh, that passage, yeah, I don't think I'm going to bother with that.
Right. Well, then it doesn't get sung or
you
performed.
Want whatever you're writing to be really well written for that instrument, Right. So I just finished a clarinet sonata for Derek Vermel and Michael Bariskin, and I had to ask things of Derek.
Well, how convenient you have a singer in the house with you. You can just
yeah, I know. I get asked occasionally in residencies or master classes, how do you learn to write for the voice? And I say, well, I married a soprano. That was my that was my solution. So people
that's a good one.
Make that kind of commitment to vocal music. I don't know.
Well, let's listen to the first piece of this great song cycle, The Brief Light, for guitar and baritone, called When You Danced.
When you danced for me those steps of flamenco, there was no music But you clapped your hands and arched your back and stomped with your heels and your skirts flew, and a smile of radiant delight was on your face. And my thoughts went back to Tarragona so many years ago, when I joined the ring of dancers with Cynthia in the square. Oh, she is long gone, I know not where. But you brought her back to me for a moment, and gave me yourself even more beautiful.
And John, I want to thank you for joining me for Meet the Composers and taking the time out of your day to talk about yourself, your life, and your career, and your music, and especially that which is on the CD. I think it really helps illuminate what we did, and to know your thoughts when you were writing these pieces. I mean, it's the historical background just makes it all much more accessible, and I really am very pleased and happy that you agreed to talk with me. So thank you very much.
And thank you for this project.
Oh, well, it was a labor of love. It was quite something to do. And as my first CD, I'm glad I didn't know any better, because I'm not sure I'll do this quite the same thing again, but I'm glad I did. I mean, I'm so pleased with the outcome, and it was such a thrill to work with all four of you guys. Tell us a little bit about Billy in the Darbies, a piece you wrote for string quartet and baritone.
Yeah, Stephen Salters, he did a whole concert involving a number of things, including that, but mostly this whole bunch of songs that I had written for him in a group called Old Addresses. I loved working on that, and I'm so glad that there is some kind of future for these things, because so many times you do a commission, that's the last time it ever gets done. I don't know whether this particular poem, Billy the Darbies, was in the play. I don't think it was. It certainly was not in the opera, which is probably, to my mind, the best opera that Britain ever wrote. I mean, I think Peter Graham's is fantastic, but Billy Budd is a slightly higher level as far as I'm concerned. Melville was such a wonderful poet. Very funny. Every turn of century, there's always people who make a list of the 100 best whatever it happens to be, American writers or like that. And oh God, people we don't read anymore, like Maddox Ford or George Gissing and so on, all perfectly lovely. Melville wasn't even mentioned. This man who had written Moby Dick, one of the great books of all time.
And it's a fairly lengthy piece as pieces go these days on a CD. I think it's 8 minutes.
That's huge. That's about the space for 3 regular songs. Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to have the Attacca Quartet join me on the recording and play this piece of yours.
I might take a little time before you're 16 just to get like.
Okay, yeah.
I have a grace note and I have to get the arco.
I see. Okay, I'll watch it.
And it's poco trattando, so I think I might just broaden it just a little bit on that.
Let's do that once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
A little emphasis on ease? Yeah. Okay. And they had just recorded this with me, and 3 weeks later, which was last January, just shy of a year ago, they won a Grammy for Best Instrumental and Chamber Music for a CD that they had put out.
What's it copying?
They jumped into it. They loved the piece. They really enjoyed playing it. And it was a fantastic experience recording it with them.
Good of the chaplain to enter Lone Bay, and down on his marrow bones hear and pray for the likes just of me, Billy Budd. But look, through the port comes the moonshine astray. It tips the gods' cutlass and silvers this nook, but 'twill die in the dawning of Billy's last day. A jewel black they'll make of me tomorrow, pendant pearl from the arm end, like the eardrop I gave to Bristol Molly. Oh, 'tis me, not the sentence they'll suspend. All is up, and I must up too. Early in the morning, aloft from alow, on an empty stomach now, never it would do. They'll give me a nibble, bit of biscuit, ere I go. Sure a messmate will reach me the last parting cup, but turning heads away from the hoist and the belay, heaven knows who will have the running of me up. No pipe to those halyards, but I did all sham. A blaze in my eyes, it is dreaming that I am. To my panzer, all adrift to go, the drum roll to grab, and Billy never know. But the dansker he has promised to stand by the plank, so I'll shake to think. I remember Taff, the Welshman, when he sank, and his cheek, it was like the budding peak. But me, they'll lash me in hammock, drop me deep. Fathoms down, fathoms down. How I'll dream fast asleep. I feel it stealing now. Sentry, are you there? Just ease these Darbies at the wrist and roll me over fair. I am sleepy, and the oozy winds about me twist. About me twist.
He's got the correct last time.
That was perfect. Did you get? Oh.